All right, so good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us here this evening to talk about our stormwater improvements in the Acoma area. My name is Tim Host. I'm the Capital Projects and Engineering Manager for the Public Works Department. I'm joined here this evening by Devin Keener. He's one of our capital project engineers who's in charge of this design and construction of this project. So we're going to go through a brief presentation here to kind of talk a little bit about the project background and a little more detail about the work we have coming up, and then we'll give you an opportunity at the end to ask us any questions about the planned improvements and anything you're curious about, or how things are going to go, or how we arrived at the plans that we did. So we'll get started here, and we'll go through these slides here, and then at the end of it, I think you'll be able to type in any questions into the chat in the meeting here. You can type your question in there. We'll read those out and answer those as best we can at the end here. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started here. And Devin, you want to go ahead and advance to the next slide, and we'll kind of go through some history here of how we got where we are. So the purpose of this project is, the biggest part is the South Englewood Drainage Basin there was identified as one of the major improvements needed based on our stormwater master plan that we I think it was in 2020, the Stormwater Master Plan was created, and we were given a kind of a roadmap to different improvements that were needed around the city. And the South Englewood Basin was one of the priority areas that we identified as needing some improvements to the storm sewer system in that area. And mostly due to the event in July of 2018, there definitely raised some concerns about what's going on, and we've definitely been working towards solutions ever since then. So we're getting to the point now where we're ready to start building some things. We're going to be sharing that here this evening. So purpose of this project is, as the slide says there, to provide the drainage solutions for the key areas in the upper end of the basin there, which is kind of upstream of Rotolo Park, is where we're focused on with these first improvements. And the design criteria we have is we've looked at based on our city council's guidance there, they wanted us to look at a 25-year rain event, and looked at having a system that can handle up to a 25-year storm event with 8 inches of surface ponding at the inlets, which means there's going to be a little bit of ponding area around each inlet there, an 8-inch depth, but we feel that's going to keep the water in the right of way, so it shouldn't affect any private property. We've looked at that pretty closely, so we're confident that that's going to work and that we can get the 25-year protection with these improvements we're recommending here on this project. So, and then the final goal there is obviously to create a safer environment for everybody during large rain events. So the rain, we control where the rain goes a little bit better, and it doesn't just go wherever it wants. We're going to, with these improvements, we'll be able to control better how the water gets through the storm sewer system to the outfall down to the river. So, all right, Devin, you want to move on to the next slide? So background, as I talked here, we've got the Stormwater Master Plan was kind of the kickoff to these improvements there. We had a consultant look at all the different priorities in the city and the different areas that need to be needed upgrades and have deficiencies, and they help prioritize them for us. And the master plan is available on the Public Works website if anybody's interested in seeing that plan. There's I think 29 different projects were laid out in that plan, and this South Englewood Basin was the top priority, and that's why we're focused on that right now. So after the master plan, we also had a Caliber Engineering did a report for us to help us also identify the little more specific improvements and where the real issues were in the different basins. So that helped guide our decisions and direction on where we need to go with the different improvements. And then once we got that Caliber report, which that is also available on the city website. If anybody's interested in seeing that, you can go to the Public Works page on the city website, and there's a link to that report. And then we also have, after that report was done, we did had a company called Allterrain Engineering do a more detailed report to refine the routing and stuff of the stormwater and make sure that we were capitalizing on our existing storm sewer system the best we can. We wanted to make sure we took advantage of the improvements that are already out there, so we weren't building duplicate improvements to things we already had. So that's the Allterrain report really narrowed down the exactly how the water gets into the storm sewer system and where we may have inlets that maybe aren't big enough, where we have pipes that aren't sized properly. And so we're really able to dial in the improvements that were needed there and really maximize our cost benefit ratio there. So that was very very important for us to have, and it really guided the decisions we made and how we came to the conclusions we did to install the improvements we're going to install on this project. So those are the different reports and things that we used to come up with this. And then I think next slide here, Devin, you want to go to the next slide? I think this next slide kind of talks a little bit about the difference between that caliber study and that Alltech study and how they were the same yet different. You know, the caliber report was a little more of a high level report. It was more of a kind of a general area, look at the whole area and kind of how much water gets to the storm sewer system, and in a 25-year event, how big the pipes need to be to handle that level of flow. And that definitely helped guide us to which pipes were too small and which pipes needed to be increased, or where we maybe had bottlenecks and things. But the issue with that one, it just focused on the main trunk lines. It kind of assumed all the water would just come to the main trunk line all at the same time, and it wasn't as refined as we needed it to be to construct the improvements. They didn't really take into account all the existing smaller lines that lead to the main trunk line, all the system we have now. We've got a lot of inlets out there and a lot of pipes already that take water to that trunk line, and we wanted to make sure we took advantage of those. So that was one of the reasons we did the Alltech report, to help us understand how water goes from the ground into the inlet and to that main trunk line there. So that was the Alltech report. But the caliber report was just as you see on the cons slide there, it just didn't consider the street and inlet capacity of routing, and the cost was very high because it was focused on just the main trunk line replacement, which is the biggest pipe and obviously the most costly to replace. So the Alltech report, the benefit we found from that was they basically, there's 120 different inlets in that South Englewood Basin out there in the Tufts and Acoma area that all feed into that main trunk line. So what Alltech did is they did a model of every single inlet and how the water gets to that inlet and how that water eventually goes into the pipe and to the main trunk line, and how the timing of that works as well. You know, that certain water gets into the pipe at different times, and it allowed us to be able to utilize that trunk line in a little more efficient way, that we can get the water through there take more time, I guess. The assumption with the caliber report, I think, was all the water kind of gets there at the same time. But the Alltech report really refined that a little bit. It was more of a real world type of scenario to show that we do have inlets and piping that's all over the city there in that area that does help us get water into that system there. So we were able to use that Alltech report. As you see there, the cost is significantly less to install basically upgrade the system we already have. Rather than starting from scratch, we can take advantage of the system we have and make key changes and upgrades to that system that will provide the same benefit, but at a lot less cost. So we were excited to see that, and that's how we're moving forward now. But the only I guess the con there of the Alltech report, it does assume that in the existing pipe, there's going to be a little bit of surcharging in the pipe, which means that the water is gonna have to push its way through a little bit more. The manholes will be there'll be a little bit of water standing in the manholes, but they are below ground, so it won't even show up on the surface. You know, the system will all handle everything underground, and we use the manholes for a little bit of storage, and as well as the inlets to be able to pond that 8-inch of those inlets. We're able to get a little storage there, which is a big benefit when it comes to taking advantage of that trunk line and not having to upsize that trunk line. If we can hold the water back a little bit and then control where it goes, we're able to spread it out over time there. So the same amount of water goes through. It just takes a little bit longer to get through there, but we don't have to upsize the trunk line immediately. So it's just a little bit of a different way to take advantage of the pipe we have now. So the bottom there, the key takeaways from the two reports is the caliber report there was it was a very high level study there that we just couldn't build from that. We had to do a little bit more studying, and it was very costly. So the Alltech report, they used the same rainfall data, and excuse me, there oh, this is my voice. But the Alltech report, it conveys the same amount of rainfall, but it considers the existing street and inlet capacities, which turns out is a big benefit there. We're able to take advantage of what we've already got to save the city quite a bit of money there. So, all right, Devin, you want to move to the next slide? So I think this where I'll let Devin take over here and talk a little bit about the design and how we came to the plans we did, and talk a little more in detail about the actual improvements that are going to be constructed in the area. So Devin, you want to go ahead and take it over?
Yes, thank you, Tim. Can you hear me?
Yep, that'll be good.
So I apologize, everybody. I can't get my video working. I don't know if you can see me or not, but it's just showing a black screen here. But just bear with me, and we'll move forward with the presentation here. On this slide, I'd just like to talk about how we created the construction plans. As Tim had said in the previous slide, we utilize recommendations in Allterrain's final design report. You can see that cover of the design report over there on the right side of your screen. So they had suggestions of, what inlets we needed to put in, what pipe sizes and pipe lengths we needed to do. So we took those suggestions and we hired an outside consultant to perform about 2/3 of the final construction plans, and then city staff did about 1/3 of the work in-house on those design plans. Once we had the final design plans, we just wanted to make sure that what we were going to construct was, going to work per Allterrain's final design report. So what we did is we had a flood extent survey done just to make sure that all flooding would stay in city-owned right-of-way, and that flooding would be no deeper than 8 inches at the inlets. And that 8-inch depth was key because that meant that it would stay within the all flooding would stay within the right-of-way. So after the study, we made sure that Allterrain's final design report was going to work for us. We went out and advertised the bid publicly to any contractor that was interested in the work. I'll move on to the next slide here. And so now on this slide, we can kind of show you what we're planning to do. We've talked about, a lot about the reports and the studies, but now here's just kind of getting into the nitty gritty of, what's this going to look like. So this is the phase 1 project details and locations. Kind of the impacted area is going to be between Tufts and Union, from Bannock to Sherman in that area. The blue line is going to be a proposed pipe. It's going to be about 800 linear feet, and so we are enlarging pipe. Existing pipe is 30 inches along South Acoma Street. We're going to increase that to 36 to 48 inches. We've got a couple of 24-inch lines, one 24-inch line coming down on this way on Union Avenue between Acoma and Broadway. Green is going to be our proposed inlets. So we've got 14 new and upsized inlets. And the red dot is proposed manholes. So we've got 7 new manholes here. And then finally, we're going to add 2 concrete alley pads. And these alley pads are going to have curb walls on them, which are going to contain flow within the alley. And I'll talk about that a little bit more on the next slide here. So in regards to the alley pads and alley curbs, so that's going to be on South Acoma Street on the east and west alleys. On South Sherman Street east alley, we're going to be adding the concrete apron, but we're not doing the concrete alley curbs over there. And so I'll talk a little bit about what I mean here by the concrete apron and concrete alley curbs. So if you look over here to the bottom right of your screen, you can see that some of the improvements that we're going to be doing on these alleys is going to be inlet upsizing. So right here we've got 2 grates, 2 inlet grates, and we're going to make that 4 total. And so we're going to try and solve some of the flooding issues that we're having in the South Acoma Street area, as well as South Sherman Street's east alley. And if you look over towards the middle left of the page, this is what the concrete alley curbs are going to kind of look like. And you can't really tell from here, but this is our plan view looking down on it. But they're going to be about 8 inches wide and about 10 inches high. And the plan is that it's going to be kind of a small mini detention pond that's going to contain water and then release it before it gets, before it spreads out onto our citizens' properties. Basically, we want to contain as much water as we can in there and kind of create a little bit of a pond and then have it drain before it just starts flooding into other properties. And we found that this seems to be the best solution here. And we think that, there'll be a little bit of water in there for a bit in the alleys, but we are upsizing those inlets, so it should drain out pretty fast, and it should solve the drainage problems that we've been seeing in these alleys. So moving on to the next slide, we'll talk about phase 2 of this project. So this is going to be coming in later this fall or early winter is kind of when we're expecting to start construction on this. We're going to add in 2,000 linear feet of new and upsized storm sewer pipe, and this is going to range from 18 inches to 76 inches in diameter. The largest pipe that we're putting in is going to be along Tufts from Bannock to South Acoma Street. The storm sewer pipe that's a little bit smaller, it's going to be 18 to 48 inches. That's over here off of Layton, going up Lincoln and down over on Sherman, these blue lines. And this is going to be a little bit smaller pipe over here, but it's still going to be increased from what's existing. The green dots are going to be our proposed inlets. We've only got 3 of them here on phase 2. So this project is going to be a little bit more heavy on our proposed pipe installation here. Then we're also going to add 6 new and upsized manholes. Now going back to the phase 1 construction, and this is more about the postcard that we had sent everybody a few weeks ago. So this project is going to start in July. That's when we're expecting, and it will run through October. So the photo over on the right-hand side of your screen is basically what it's going to look like out there at Union and Acoma. You're going to see this similar equipment. They're going to be digging these similar trenches. We're going to have to be aware of, street parking. The contractor is going to have vehicles, parked along, the sides of the street here and there to get the job completed. So it will look very similar to what you're seeing in this photo here. A little bit more about what to expect. So the Inglewood construction hours are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We advise that you will, expect to hear some noise coming from this project. We got a lot of heavy machinery out there. Our goal is to try and get in and get out as quick as we can, of course. And so there's going to be traffic disruption in the area. We're going to have temporary no parking signs, temporary road and street closures. And we're going to have temporary alley closures, but you'll always be able to access your home. And we're going to send you a notification before we get out there to start working. So you'll know what days to not park on the street, what days that you need to access the alley, and what days that you can't access the alley. So you will be well notified of the construction schedule. So we will send you project notifications and flyers. And something else to expect on this project is the potential removal of the signal at Bannock and Tufts. And we're planning on replacing that with a 4-way stop. And that's going to help us get some of this heavier machinery over here to the project site, because that's a low-hanging signal over there. I'll move on to the next slide here. Just want to talk a little bit about the contractor selection process. So what we do for most public construction projects is we issue a public invitation for bid. Over on the right-hand side of the screen, this is what the cover page of that looks like. So we received 3 bids. 3 bids came back. So the bids were reviewed for completeness, and errors. We checked their references, and we received all positive references from them. We feel that this is a competent company that we have selected through their resumes and previous, work history. They've shown that they're very well experienced in doing stormwater infrastructure projects. So the next steps here on this project is that we have a construction contract award for our contractor scheduled this coming Monday, June 21st, for the city council meeting. And that concludes my part of the presentation. I don't know if you got anything else to add here, Tim, if you want to bring it to questions and comments at this point in time.
Yeah, so if anybody's got any questions or anything, if you want to type them into the chat there, we'll try to respond to any questions and get you the responses that you're curious about. So, Brittany, are you able to see the questions? I can't see the questions on my screen here. Is there a way I can see them?
Stop share.
Yeah, maybe stop sharing. Let's see if we can see what kind of questions we have, and we'll do our best to respond here and get you some responses to anything you're curious about.
So it looks like attendee Samantha has her hands up. Would you like me to allow her to ask a question?
I'm sure. Is there a way to type it into the chat, or I guess we can, if she wants to just ask us there verbally, that would work too.
It looks like nobody has utilized the Q&A chat function.
Okay.
I will allow attendee to Samantha to ask her question.
Okay.
Yeah. So my driveway, it goes right over the top of the sewer, and you guys plan on putting the additional inlet in there. So I would be right between Tufts and Union. I'm right on Sherman Street. It's that there's only one spot there. Are you guys going to need access to my driveway there to get the machinery and everything in there? I just need to know if I need to remove everything out of my driveway so you guys have access.
Did you want to take that one, Devin?
So the contractor will provide notifications on whether or not you need to, move everything out of your driveway, move your car. You'll be notified ahead of time.
Yeah, so there'll be a lot of coordination with the contractor there to make sure how they need to get in and out. We shouldn't need to go across any private property to get to the project site, even up the alleys there. We'll just come up the alley right away there. But if there is any issue with your driveway or anything, we'll certainly, the contractor will be in touch with you. That's pretty typical expectation of the contractor to make sure they coordinate any kind of driveway access with people, because we know you need to get in and out of there, and we don't want to trap anybody in or keep them out. And we'll do the best we can to continue to allow you to have access in there while we get the work done. Is there any other questions, Brittany?
Doesn't look, there is one question that popped up in the Q&A. That question is, what length of time for parking, and do we need to move our cars? I'm actually not understanding this question. The question says, what length of time for parking need to move cars will be one given?
So there's going to be 24 hours notice on that. What they'll do is they'll put up temporary no parking signs on the section of the street that they're going to need to use to access for their equipment and to dig the trench for the pipe. So those signs will go up a minimum of 24 hours before you need to get your vehicles moved, so you'll know when the time is to put your vehicle around the corner or something there, so you don't have it in the way of the construction. So definitely look for those temporary no parking signs will be placed along the road there, and that's something you want to look for to give you the timing of that, to know when it's time to not be parked there, because they're getting ready to do the work right there. So keep an eye out for those signs there, and you'll know when things are coming. All right, anything else, Brittany?
Yes, the next one says, will we be given 24-hour notice?
Yes, that's the minimum. The contractors are required to give you at least 24 hours notice. So yeah, they will have those no parking signs out there at least 24 hours before, so you can make adequate plans to get any vehicles moved, or if there's a vehicle that needs to get a jump start or something, you need to get it running again. You'll have at least 24 hours notice to know to get it off the street there, so the contractor can come in and do the work there, because that is something we want to make sure everybody has plenty of time there to be able to move them out of the way. So it's at least 24 hours notice. You'll know that things are going to be happening.
Okay. Samantha asks, what area will they start on first?
So that's something we haven't talked to the contractor specifically yet, but more than likely it'll be in that Acoma low spot there, just on Acoma south of Tufts. Normally they start at the lower end of the pipe and lay the new pipe upstream is how the pipe's typically installed. So more than likely they'll be starting in the Acoma low spot area there and working their way up to Union there and laying that pipe. So I would expect the work to start there right in that low area of Acoma.
And Andrew asks, will there be water or power outages?
Devin, did you want to take that one?
There shouldn't be any water or power outages, unless the contractor, hits a line, but we strive to, make sure that doesn't happen. We've added all the utilities on our plans. We make sure that the contractor calls in, locates and spray paints all the utilities on the ground first. And we go out there and we pothole, for these utilities. So we make sure that there aren't any conflicts that are going to pop up like that. So we plan for that not to happen. Sometimes those things do happen, but it's rare, and we try to avoid that.
It doesn't look like we have any more questions at this time.
All right. So yeah, if there's no more questions, we appreciate everybody's time, and you can always call Devin or myself as well. Our contact information's on the website there. If you have any questions, I think Devin's contact information's on the postcard you all received there. If there's any other questions, you can give us a call, or during the construction as well. Reach out to us if there's any issues with the construction or the contractor. We're always available to help resolve those and try to make the construction as smooth and easy as possible, and try to get it put in so we can upgrade the storm sewer system and have a good, strong system for the future. So definitely reach out to us if there's any more questions, and we appreciate everybody being with us here this evening. All right, thanks.